Everybody inside the room has a seat and is comfortable. Please raise your hands if you're comfortable. You have a seat inside the room. And if you are at the back of the room, I request you to please make your way in front and you can occupy the chairs in front of the room. Alright, so this power-packed panel discussion is about work around life versus life around work, the changing rules. 68% of employees in Indonesia said they will not opt for higher salaries or job promotions and rather prioritize work-life balance, as per a Michael Page survey. Given these shifting priorities, how do companies redesign roles, policies, organization structures to make new rules at work? In this session, we are going to explore how best employers are tuning into the renewed talent, needs and values. And for this, please put your hands together for Maris Rahadiyan, Human Resources Director, Cargill, Ayu Anditry, Head of People, BukuWarung, and our moderator for the session, Randeep Singh, COO HONO.
Hello? Yeah. It's better now. Can you hear me? Salaam Alam is, good evening. Right, so that's the only bhasa that I know. Right, so I'll spend 30 seconds with you here. I think we need to just get the circulation right. I know it's the toughest session because it's the last session. So if you are comfortable, can you please stand up? If you are comfortable. Okay, great. Last session needs a lot of energy, a lot of circulation going. And now, if you are comfortable with the person sitting right next to you, left or right, if you are comfortable and if you're friends, yeah, you could give each other a good shoulder massage. 15 minutes, yeah. Good. If you're friends, comfortable. Otherwise, just self-massage yourself. Yeah. Self-massage. Yeah. Self-massage. Good. People at the back. Self-massage. Good idea. Yeah, only if you're comfortable. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Going well. 10 more seconds. You've got the opportunity to give massage to your neighbor. Okay, get it back. Only if you're comfortable. Good. Stretch as well. I think that's good. Comfortable? Happy? Please sit down. Thank you so much. Good hand for yourself. I think you're refreshed now. And I see a lot of plates and teacups as well, right next to you. Please enjoy that. My name is Randeep. I manage the operations for an organization called HONO. And I've got a very beautiful panel with me. I'll quickly introduce myself. Close to 20-25 years of experience in the industry, majorly into HR tech. And here I am in Indonesia talking to you. It's a lovely evening. So that's my introduction. 30 seconds to each one of you to introduce yourself. I think your mics are working. Please, and I'll join you upstairs. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Randeep. Hi, everyone. My name is Maris Rahadiyan. I can tell you I'm 100% male because for those who doesn't meet me in person, sometimes they treat me as a female. But I can tell you I'm 100% male. I'm working for Cargill now in Indonesia as a human resource director, Cargill Indonesia. So it's really great to have the opportunity to share a bit of the initiative we have in Indonesia. And please be mindful, sometimes I need to scale up into the global initiative as well. By sitting here, it doesn't mean I know everything. I take it an opportunity for me to learn from you as well. Thank you so much.
Yes. Hi everyone, how are you feeling? My name is Ayu Anditry. Some people can call me Ayu, some people can call me Andit. A little bit, the flip side of Maris is if I introduce myself as Andit, people will think I'm male, but I'm actually female. I'm 16 years old.
I have 16 years of experience in HR, but mostly in financial services. Right now, I'm working with BukuWarung, which is a tech enabler. We're helping Indonesia's small and micro entrepreneurs in helping to give them the best experience that they can upskill their business.
Thank you so much for your introduction. The topic is quite interesting. I think if you can see some vacant chairs around you, I think these are the people who have learned how to balance work and life, or life or work. So that's the topic for today, right? And we're going to keep it a little light, not make it the responsibility is on me, but I have got your beautiful people sitting right next to me to be provoking some thought processes, and we're going to make it very interactive. So bear with me when I ask you that if you have any questions, please put it onto the panel, and I'll also try and answer any questions that I can answer for you. So these are the benchmarks, right, for the chairs which are vacant. So I think it's very interesting. So let's get on to the topic, and we'll build it from there. Work life to life work, right? Quite interesting, yeah, because it's just jumbling of two words. But it has a lot of deep connotation, right, which has gone by for the last, I would not say a couple of years, but 10 to 15 years. These are two sides of the same coin, right, which is when I am an employee and I'm working from office, for me work-life balance is more important, right? And when I'm an employee working remotely, for me life work becomes more important, right? So that's the difference. But how do you see this transition that has happened, and why are we discussing this today? I mean, I'm a little surprised because this is a classical debate that has been happening for, I would say, donkey's years. Work-life balance, but more so life work now. But why is the discussion coming right now? Is something that I would want to pose to both of you, because it's I have been hearing this. Anyone who is working from office or working would want to have a fair work-life balance. In fact, would not want to work at all, right? So if that's the notion, but why is it being discussed right now, and how relevant do you think after the pandemic struck us? How relevant this juggling of work-life and life work has become? Anyway, I mean, if you want to start, yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question, right? Why are now we discussing work-life balance? Ever since donkey years, as you said, people have been working and have been, having to manage their work and their life at the same time. So it's not a new problem statement. It's not a new problem to solve. But the thing why it's more important now to discuss than ever is that with work and life, balancing work and life, as life changes, I think in the past 3 years, life as we know it has changed a lot for everyone in the world, right? Hence, there's why it comes to the question, how do we manage work and life now with the situation that we have? Because I think after COVID, after the pandemic, a lot of people go through certain changes in the way that they view life. For some of them, the impermanence of life becomes more pressing, and they want to enjoy more of life. For some of them, family matters more. They want to spend more time with family. They want to spend more time on their health. And the next question is that I have my work, then how can I achieve those goals at the same time, while I'm working to support myself and my family? So I think that's why it becomes a little bit more important now.
Right.
Maybe Pak Maris will have.
Yeah, you convey a really relevant context, I can tell, and then there is no any context that I would like to add, but the things that I would like to really bring us into our memories. I think work life is not new for us. I still remember back in 15 and 20 years ago, this is something happened at the time, right? Work-life balance at this point of time is really changing in terms of how we can enroll the optimum situation between work and life. Because I'm the one who still believe that work and life cannot be segmented, cannot be separated.
Right.
We as human beings has an obligation to work as much as we are having obligation to throughout our life, right? So the thing that I'd like to share in Cargill is into what context that we can overcome the challenges. Cargill is one of big multinational communities dealing with so many production workers, and I believe most of you having to deal with the production worker as well. The challenge is more how we can create fairness in terms of how we can initiate and activate work-life balance program in our company, but doesn't marginalize our production worker, because we cannot implement work-life balance to our production worker, right? And then we cannot ask them to stay away from plan. Even we are asked them to come to plan every day during pandemic, right? I think that's a challenge we should overcome. And the way we are doing Cargill is how we can translate it to work-life balance into appropriate manner. For production worker, of course, we cannot ask them to define that work schedule to 2 days in a week in plan, and the rest of the days they can work in home. We cannot do that. The things that we can do is how we can create some non-monetary program that really impactful to their lives. I can tell stand-up a scholarship program is like employee assistance program, even some of the webinar which is supporting in terms of the financial agility. The thing that's the thing that I'd like to share, and that perhaps I get to know what kind of program that you guys having in your company, and then get to know more in terms of how Cargill can do the same. I think that's answer the question.
Thank you so much. I think that brings a very important fact that you shared, and it is, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's life. You're going through something like that in your personal life as well. But, at times it makes me think that, it's not a state that anyone can achieve. So there's nothing called as life work, perfect balance, right? So it's a bit. So for me, it's a continuous cycle, that keeps on happening in the organization, and what it reflects on organization is much more important, right? Because you represent, organization. I represent an organization. So how do you think organizations are faring with this equation that needs to be built, which is balancing work and life, or whatever cycle that you can call it? Because I believe at times organizations come under tremendous pressure to change their DNA, to bring in this concept, right? I come recently from a startup background. For me, there is nothing called as work-life balance or life-work balance. Startups are startups, right? So you have to work 24/7, so you can see this work, right? So you come from the same setup, right? So is the organization trapped at times to be accommodating this balance or this cycle, that we need to be talking about? I mean, that's my question to you. And of course, from your experience, how your organizations have fared, in bringing this balance or bringing this cycle into the active value delivery, which is business delivery as well at the end of the day. Yeah.
Thank you, Randeep. The most updated context on how we can create a welfare for our employees nowadays, well known as the well-being, right?
Yeah.
Wellness. And we do believe when we are creating so much infrastructure, facility, workforce facility, or any program that supporting for employees can be a best version of themselves, is really creating so much added value for companies. Right? We don't have to be worried in terms of the motivation. We don't have to be worried in terms of the contribution. As long as we are supporting for employees to be a better person day by day, or even to be a best person day by day, is something that could be beneficial for both parties, employees and companies. And coming to the question, we know exactly the challenge when we are implementing kind of a flexible working time arrangement for office worker is creating another problem, another headache, right? I can tell each of us in this room have ever in the condition we cannot unplug to our social media, including responding emails, including responding WhatsApp. I don't know if we are using still, we're still using SMS, right? But there is no any limit for us to really expose to our job. Even we are working from home. There is the big challenge for company, including Cargill, right? That's why we are creating a very solid and massive program coming from the top, from the global executive team, that we need to be disciplined in terms of unplug ourselves. So the expectation is for everyone in Cargill to really have an unplugged mindset, to not really touching after office hour in terms of the email, in terms of WhatsApp, is something that we are giving the courage for employees to do so. And we are encouraging our leader or our manager, if they need or if they have to reach out their team member after office hour or even before after office hour, we ask them to really starting with the apology. For example, myself would like to reach out the critical part, the critical information that I need to get from my team member. I need to start the WhatsApp or even with apology. Apology for reaching out after office hour. So that's creating an unimaginable trust level to everyone as the great component for the interaction and communication between managers and employees. And employees itself having so much freedom if they don't want to respond all of the queries coming from the manager after office hour or even before office hour. This is something sounds cliche to me, I believe. It's not easy for us to implement. But I'm sure this is something simple that we can implement. So that's the point that I'd like to share.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for it.
Just adding a bit from maybe a different perspective, right? So, BukuWarung, ever since the get-go, because we started in the middle of the pandemic, right? For some companies, remote work, working from anywhere, flexible working is the exception rather than the norm. For us, it's more the norm because that's what we've always known. And it's working well for us, right? But as you said, sometimes HR practitioners, we see that there's this trend. There's this thing called working from anywhere, and people are raving about it. And sometimes people, the people team can lose their DNA because they're not applying it or adjusting it to the kind of organization they are, the kind of organization they want to be. Definitely, like what Maris said, working from anywhere is not going to work for Cargill, right? Like the machines isn't going to work themselves, right? So that's I think what is important for HR practitioners to understand first, what is your business goals, what is your business process, then what kind of employees that you need, and what kind of setting works best for that specific kind of employee. Earlier this morning, I think that Donora was talking about customization, hyper-personalization, sorry, right? Because that is also, even though I think 80-90% of the employees in BukuWarung right now are millennials, Gen Z, where working from anywhere, remote working flexibility is something that is appealing to them now. In 5 to 10 years, they'll be married, they'll be having children, there will be a shift of events in their life where it forces them to relook on whether this is the right setting for me or not, whether I still have that level of energy, to be working in this manner, and things like that. So ultimately, it's about finding that right fit between what your organization needs, what are the specific set of customers, because candidates are our customers, right? Employees are our customers. What do they want from the organization, and how can we best adjust our policies to provide that in some way for them? That way, we don't have to lose who we are as an organization.
But essentially, you see that risk of DNA being exposed, right, and being changed as well, right, during the journey, right? That's a good point. Okay, and something that's just come to my mind, most what you just discussed is, these days technology plays a lot of part in the overall, the way things are managed, the way HR is run. Do you see, just a quick answer from both of you, do you see any impact that technology can bring to can play, to bring this balance, or it's just a fact, work-life balance is just esoteric and has to be done in a very different way. But do you see technology playing any part in your respective workplaces? I mean, how can you track what the engagement levels are? Can we do something preventive? Can we look into some indicators that would help me give that ecosystem to the employees? Maybe with technology, without technology, but your views, quick views. I mean, do you see technology playing a role, going forward?
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, we are a tech company, right?
Yeah.
Because BukuWarung is a tech company, and we believe that technology is an enabler, right? It allows us to do things that maybe 10 years ago we can do with a greater amount of effort behind it. Simple things, right? Like when I started working, if you want to apply for a leave, you have to put it on paper, somebody has to sign it, and then you go for leave. Right now, there are technology that allows us to just simply click it on an app, and then your manager clicks it back. It's done, right? And it goes to certain lines. I've seen a lot of application of this technology, including engagement, where you can easily survey people. BukuWarung also uses a certain kind of app to do that, where you can survey your employees in terms of engagement, how they're feeling, what is their pain points. And so our people partners can address that and find out, in a more deeper manner, is there something that we can solve for them.
Right. Great. Yeah. Your views, Maris?
Yeah, that's a great response from Ayu. The things, forgive me if I'm trying to really give the more flavor on the context. That yes, technology is something that we can take them as the enabler, right? As the enablement of any initiative that the company has, right? The things that we need to be mindful is on how we can enable technology with the humanized quote-unquote approach, right? Because time to time we don't want to be trapped into context that yes, we are enabled with technology, but the human approach when we are having in the previous context between HR person and the employees is diminished. So the challenge is how we can create more humanized approach of the enablement of technology to all this process. I think that's the key point. On top of the point that being mentioned by previous session, I still remember the panelists. One of the panelists mentioned is the commitment. I think commitment and humanized enablement of technology is something great for us to be mindful.
Great. I mean, as a technology company, of course, if I can pitch in, we do a lot of work in identifying certain moments that matter in employee life cycle, right? Which decides engagement, as you said, right? Surveying, or you have certain predictives that work, which could give you some insights, which could build actions of the key stakeholders for them to engage with people, or do something differently, which could, bring out this work-life balance, or could have some element of this definition that we're trying to put in here. And so, yes, technology does play a part. And of course, I represent a tech company, so I can talk about it. But anyways, going to a very different fallout of life work balance, and I think this is very important. And it's a very recent phenomena that has been now prevalent in the market. Only because the shift from work life to life work has happened is a word called moonlighting. How many of you have heard of moonlighting? If you have heard it, you're doing it. Right? Anyone who's heard of moonlighting? I'll define it for you. Right? So it is, as an employee, as a worker, me actively engaged in two employments at a given point in time. That's moonlighting, right? So if I have life work, that I have so-called strike a balance on, I have the choice to put in certain more productive hours doing something that I'm passionate about, or a parallel employment, and could actually be earning much more than what my principal employer could be giving me as return, right? So moonlighting is a concept, and of course in India, where I come from, there is the largest IT organization who has fired, a couple thousand people, who were identified moonlighting. So in this context, do you think that there are certain practices that organizations need to change or mold themselves into? To first of all, I believe in moonlighting, right? Until unless it is not conflict of interest of what your principal employer is asking you to do. But what's your thought on this, right? Because this is one fallout. there could be many other fallouts as well. If we are too liberal on the concept of life-work balance or work-life, either way, right? So what are your thoughts? I mean, any thoughts that come to your mind?
So the whole concept of flexibility, right? I think it comes also with a similar level of responsibility and trust.
Right.
You cannot give people flexibility if you cannot trust them. If there's always this feeling of in the back of your head, is he working for someone else? He's not answering my calls and things like that, right? But at the same time, we as HR practitioners also need to put clear guardrails, because we know ultimately why do people work? Yes, for the money to live, but also to gain meaning, right?
Right.
On the Maslow pyramid, top is self-actualization.
Yes.
And for some people, they're lucky enough to achieve that self-actualization through their work. But for some, maybe their job is just a way to pay their bills, and they need to find self-actualization somewhere else. So there's, I think, some kind of nuance there in terms of like what actually defines moonlighting, what can or cannot, right? Maybe somebody wants to be a wedding singer. Maybe that's fine. It also depends on the company's preference, right? As long as what you said, it does not have a conflict of interest, and both of those parties, the employee and the employer, have agreed to that, it's stated in the contract, then it's something that can definitely be adjusted. Because I feel that it also, if somebody achieves meaning in some other way, maybe their hobby, they also have a more fulfilled life and then able to approach their work more energized. At least
Could be more productive as well.
Could be more productive, yeah.
Great, yeah.
Just 2 points that I'd like to share in terms of how we can really guarding in terms of the possibility for our employees having another working agreement. I'm calling it in such a way because I agree with Ibu Ayu that if somebody having another income addition, another income from YouTuber, right, from wedding singer, that's fine. But we are not we are not allowing our employees to have another second working agreement with other companies. That's really straightforward and must be clearly stated in our company regulation. The second thing that I'd like to share is on how we can creating some excitement factor for our employees to be part of our growth. Right? We do have AGE. AGE stands for the Entrepreneurial Digital Growth Engine, which is collecting so much ideas coming from our employees that can be considered as the new ways of companies to generate money. Our background is agriculture, commodity, and financial organization, and then we are very pleased. In agriculture, there are so much new ideas coming in terms of the supply chain, right? And then I can tell in Indonesia itself, we are submitting 15 proposals as new ideas to our group. 2 of them have been accepted, but I can tell there is not enough because so many things that might become as new ideas coming from employees to really provide them a new energy instead of they are looking for another job from other companies.
Right.
And then we are allowing to do that maximum 20% of their time to do that beyond their job responsibility. So that's something that we believe we are really proud of, because in other countries we can create some of additional revenue from this program.
Right.
And at the same time, people get energized and people can get some legit additional income by company buying the intellectual property right from the employees. So I think that's kind of mutual context that we have at this point of time.
So you're saying that there could be enough possibilities within the organization framework to be asking people, to be putting people into a channelized way of showing their passion of what they're passionate about, and tapping onto that in the organization benefiting it, in turn employee also benefiting that. So that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I give you an example. We do have sales supervisor, and then turns out the background is IT, and he has passion to really become a software engineer.
Right.
And turns out he can provide a solution, creating application to really shortening the supply chain of agricultural product from the farmer to our warehouse. So it's creating so much benefit. At the same time, we are buying the intellectual property from free. I think that's a good one, Parisha.
I'm also mindful of the time and ask people also to be asking questions, but just to have one conclusive thought from you, right? As I've already spoken, it's a cycle. We can't achieve the perfect state of life, but any concluding comments? How do you see this going in the next 1 or 2 years? Is this concept going to mature? Is it going to fade out? Because I see a lot of people wanting to come back to workplace, right? Because you get the energy there. Of course, you love your family. You've seen them enough for 2 years, right? But now you want to get back to office space, and go back to the whiteboard and do something creative, right? So, where do you see this concept going in the next couple of years? It's going to fade out, or it's still going to become stronger, and there are different definitions that will come up? My conclusion is that it's still evolving. No one knows what the consequences are, and of course, we need to chart out a way how that balance of cycle could be infused with the organization. Your concluding remarks before we have people asking us questions. You questions, not me. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, as you said, it's a cycle. It adjusts, work-life balance adjusts to how life is at that certain point in time, right? And I feel that since life will always evolve, then the interpretation of what does it mean for a company to be providing work-life balance or work-life integration to its employees will continue to evolve, right? Or maybe during the pandemic, it's working from home to keep everyone safe. Right now, maybe it's more on flexibility, so people have the choice. Some people who have had enough of their family and want to meet other people, they can come to the office. And for others, they want to stay at home, they can do that. It's just the way, it's the most important thing is how can companies personalize these things, provide the choices to a certain extent, so that the employees feel they have the flexibility to choose.
Thank you. Thanks.
Short from me is, as Michael Page so very saying that 68% of us in Indonesia is for the salary adjustment or promotion. Right? They choosing instead of the salary promotion as well-being. Right? I would like to urgently ask us to really influencing to our top management, to our board of directors, to really converting the remaining balance of the employee budget into something impactful to employees' welfare. We don't want to be trapped into context that HR is someone who's gonna having a role in terms of the saving. I think that's something that we need to be really convincing to our top management to have another context in terms of the benefit, including well-being program.
Right. Thank you so much. Quickly, questions. We are out of time, but any questions? Top of mind, yes. Your question is for? Can we have mic, please?
I know it may not be that relevant to our topic, but I hope to get this opportunity. So, having like a global workforce where you have employees across the globe, so I'm just really wanted to get your opinion. What do you think is more important? In our organization, just to give a background, we believe that having one approach, one rule for all, regardless where you sit, is very important. What do you think is more important? Respecting the country variations in terms of providing engagements, or veering away from having like a one rule, one play for all employees regardless where you sit? I mean, the philosophy there is that we wanted to have, and we wanted to make sure that all of the employees in this organization will just be getting the same treatment. But because of that, I don't think honestly that we are promoting diversity, and there's no local flavor to that engagement that we're providing, because we wanted to just like have one approach. So what do you think is the best approach to do? I mean, local approach to give the best engagement to these employees, or just follow one holistic, treatment for everyone?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And I believe myself and my organization that I'm looking for is still learning about it, but I can share what I did. in the previous employer, right? The thing that we need to be really careful in managing the expectation of employees is the understanding that there is no only one fits for all, right? We cannot implement a compensation benefits policy for all entire employees population. Previously, we are implementing, we call it as the flexible benefit. I think this is something common. I saw Mercer as one of the sponsors. I think they are having more resource to really on how we can implement the flexible benefits. But I can tell the flexible benefit is really addressing what is really needed by certain group of employees, right? And then the things that I would like to ask us to be really mindful also is into what extent that we can provide the flexibility. For example, if our organization cannot be convinced to get rid of the philosophy of one fits for all, I think we should have another approach into what extent that we can create manual process. For example, we are creating compensation benefits for all entire group of population of employees, but we are really creating some flexibility to give a manual or exception. For example, we can create some coverage of the critical illness insurance for somebody who's having serious illness. I think I can respond at this point of time, but I believe those approaches can create so much diversity you just mentioned, because diversity is really rich, right? For us as a local company, perhaps the diversity is something that we can address the needs of the underrepresentation group of employees. But from the global angles, they come up with the general perspective. Diversity is something provide equal treatment between male and female employees. So I think that I believe I cannot fulfill your expectation to answer your question, but I can give some of point that you can consider.
I'm sure they are.
So, thank you so much for patiently being with us. Any questions that you have for the panel, you can take it offline, outside the seminar room. And have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.